Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for another tier list. It is the end of July, and as such, I like to update my best heroes in Eternal Evolution tier list and then share them with you all. So without further ado, let's get right to it because this video seems to take a little bit of time. So one thing that I did do differently this month was I did amalgamated the support class, so healers and supports are all in together. I used to have to split them off before. I had them split off before, and then I split out the Vanguard and Assassins. Prior to this video, I always had them as the melee class because we didn't really have a whole lot, but we've gotten 2 new melee characters or 2 new assassins, so I figured it was time. Split the melee apart. Now we have all of the actual classes in game to go through. So like I like to do as well, I'm going to get rid of my head for people that may want to screenshot this image right here for their guilds, for their discords, blah, 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 whatever. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm coming back. Okay, so we're going to address the elephant in the room right off the bat. Caraxia. She is the undisputed best hero in the game. She is the destroyer of worlds. She is death incarnate. I had to use this image right here because I didn't have her unlocked on this account, and my image extraction tool just couldn't distinguish between the grayscales. It was being a pain in the butt, so I used this image, and I'm going to use it for a little bit. Doesn't matter. She is the undisputed #1 best hero in the game. If you can get her, free to play, good luck. Next to her, still Northeon. But let's discuss the tanks. Okay, tanks. We have our first new entry other than Caraxia into the game, with being Teresh in the tank class. But I'm still giving Pandemonium the undisputed first slot best tank in the game, because in a tank team, in the team setting, be it PvP, be it PvE, be it Twilight Lands, if you don't have Pandemonium, your tank team just doesn't have any jam, right? You need Pandemonium. He is the engine of the team. He makes all of the other tanks synergize on a team together to do the special things that they can do, which is why I'm still going to give Pandemonium the #1 spot in the tank class. Now, the #2 spot was really difficult for me because Teresh is so good, Womagon is so good. Both of these 2 tanks are plug-and-play heroes. You can pull them out of the tank team, and you can use them in other places, which is why there could be an argument made that they're better than Pandemonium. But I am still giving Pandemonium 1. Womagon is more of a tank. He's really, really survivable, especially if you get him up to Dragon form. PvP, he is a monster, but he's also a monster in PvE. Teresh is proving very, very useful. I just put out a video where he put him on an assassin team in Terradome, and he can elevate purple assassins to get down Terradome X3. Teresh, more of a support tank. Womagon, more of a damage tank. So for the purpose of this video, I'm giving Womagon the slight edge for now, although I can be convinced that Teresh is better. But think of these 2 as 2A and 2B. Zeta is getting pushed out of the top 3 tanks, but she is the most tanky character in the game. She's more tanky, in my opinion, than Womagon or Teresh. All things created equal, all of them being X30. She's got a lot of sustain in her kit. She is a great tank for a new account or a mid-game account. But, and actually, I do still run her as a 4-tank team with 1 healer with the Pandemonium, Teresh, and Womagon. Still a great hero, but she's a little bit overshadowed by the beginning 3. Then we get into the elites. I'm not going to go into the elites too much in this video because it takes too long. Just use this as a kind of a guide. Let's move. There we go. My OCD was bugging me. So Vagnus is probably the best elite in every game mode if you don't have the SSS. I use him as my 3rd on my tank team until I get my Teresh built up on my free-to-play account. Vagnus is a very, very good tank, even at being elite. Oysa is also still really good tank for PvP specifically. She does have her uses in beginning game PvE due to her mass stun or her AoE stun. Oak is okay. Boar is okay. Boar gets probably more use than Oak at endgame, so I should probably give him the edge over Oak. And then Queet had a very, very brief moment in the sun, but now he's just kind of relegated. He's not trash on a tank team, but he's really, really squishy. And really you're only using him to jump to the back line and then magnetic nuclear shock or nuclear magnetic shock everybody into oblivion. But now with Teresh, we can actually chuck one of our better tanks into the back line. We don't need Queet. Teresh basically made Queet obsolete, and as such, I'm probably going to move him down here. There we go. Okay, and that's the tanks. Support. So, as we said, I did amalgamate the support in together. Now, I know there is a debate whether or not Miranda is better than Masrani. I call them 1A, 1B. I'm giving them an equal footing as the best healers in the game. But keep in mind, Masrani is more of a healer, and Miranda is more of a support than a healer. She does heal, but it's minuscule compared to her damage buffs. But both very, very, very essential for every game mode in Eternal Evolution. Now, then we get to our first true support being Rez. Rez, I don't know if I have to really explain what makes Rez go. He is basically the battery to every other single triple S in the game and the elites. Pair him with somebody and he makes their ultimates go off right at the beginning of the battle. Very, very pivotal in PvP as well. And then we get to Serena and Bada. Serena, better than Bada because she has unlimited range. She's an AoE healer. She gives an AoE defense up. She is still amazing. She's a launch healer, but still very, very useful. Sometimes I'll run her over a triple S in my tank lineup. And then we got Bada, who is a very powerful single target healer. They tried to make her better. They buffed her twice. She does have an attack buff radius, but it is so small that no one ever gets it. If they increased her buff radius by to 4 meters, she might be better. But for now, she is probably the weakest of the healer class other than Loran. And I am putting Loran with Anaruda down here. They're not trash. At beginning game, you are going to need to use Loran. He's going to be one of your first healers. You get him from passing stage 30 in the Soul Mine. And then Anaruda, if you get him up to X30, which I don't recommend doing, he has some niche uses, but by the time you get him up to Immortal, you're going to be working on other X30s that are more important than him. And then Hypnos is not trash, but very close to being trash. I did leave some heroes out of this tier list again. If you see an elite that is missing from this tier list is because they are trash, you can use them for food. They are useless even at beginning game. Energy, one of the most powerful classes in the game, although they seem to have taken a step back to assassins and tanks and summoners with the introduction of new heroes. Northeon, undisputed second best character in the game, but he is locked behind a paywall. Not as hard of a paywall as Caraxia, but a paywall nonetheless. The developers in their wisdom have decided that they want to withhold Northeon after they already released him to the general populace because he's too good. He's a carry. He makes pieces of content, he trivializes pieces of content. He is that good. Second unto him is Jaina. Jaina is a glass cannon, but man, her cannon has a big old boom. Jaina is what made the energy team the hard counter to summoners. You will not be disappointed if you get her up. You can plug and play her as well. You tend to see instances where you can mix her with Dominic to make use of Dominic's mark to make big damage numbers. She's really, really good. She is absolutely the second best energy hero in Eternal Evolution. And then we get to the old school launch energy heroes, Luke and Ravenna. Now Ravenna, due to her limited range, she has fallen off. I would say that she is no longer as useful as Luke. Luke, with his AoE defense down, is still very, very useful in this game. Put him in a burst set, pair him with Miranda. He can still do unreal damage. He was the Jaina before we got Jaina, but he is not as good as Jaina, and that is why he's number 3 on this list. Ravenna is a hard number 4. While she is better than these other energy characters, she gets pushed out by the front 3. Very, very good for a new account, though, although now with Northeon, with Jaina, and I think that Luke is on his way out if we get another energy character. I wouldn't put a whole lot of genes into Ravenna. I would just build her as she comes. Falvia and Kain, those are going to be the beginner or the free-to-play energy, the beginner or free-to-play accounts energy characters that get the most use the longest. I still use these two on my free-to-play account. They are very, very good. Falvia has gotten a buff to make her better. They're going to be outshone by the triple S's, but I'd say these two are definitely distinguish themselves apart from the other elites on this list. Nautilus, by the time you get a working Nautilus, you're not going to want to use him. He is a single target or multi-hit character. Very, very much. Basically, he is the SSS equivalent of Sorietta, which Sorietta you will use to the point where she gets replaced. You can use Sorietta and Nautilus on, like, say, like Disa Caves, because of like early Disa Caves, sub X1, because of their multi-hit uses. You can use them on Whale, even though Assassins are better on Whale in Guild Hunt. Yeah, both of these, you're probably going to use Sorietta if you're a beginning account or a new player or a mid-game player, and then you're just going to drop her. Same, Nagrama almost has no uses. You could probably use Sorietta in every instance where you want to use Nagrama, although Nagrama's AoE is nice and he can dish out damages. For a brand new account, Nagrama and Omar are probably going to be getting some use in your Sincero Marsh teams, until you get Kain and Falvia. Kain and Falvia are just better damage-dealing AoE characters than Nagrama or Omar. And as such, I'm not going to discuss Omar and Paluno. You get them very, very early in the game, but they're very, very quickly going to find no uses once you can replace them with better heroes. But they're not trash. They're just not good. Hunters. Okay, Hunters. We got Ryzeris and Rebecca. I am giving Ryzeris the hard number 1 of the class because she brings a lot of attack speed buffs to all of the other hunters. She is an AoE hunter. You can put her on a tank team to counter summoners because she's got anti-summoner built into her kit. She is really, really good, and she does awesome damage numbers. She's AoE, whereas Rebecca is single target. Rebecca, what she brings is survivability, but she is basically a single target multi-hit hunter, but she can nuke down tanks. But because of what she brings to the hunter team, she's the number 2 spot on this list. Ryzeris and Rebecca both bring a lot of buffs to the hunters, which is why they are 1 and 2. I am giving Ryzeris, though, the top spot. Then we get into the old school at launch characters, Moriami, Emma, and Prygor. The reason why I have Moriami a little bit higher than Emma is because of her PvP uses. Emma, I've seen her used in endgame PvP. Basically, I'm going to kind of pair them together. I like Moriami a little bit more, so I'm giving her the edge. Moriami is actually probably more accessible to free-to-play now, given that she is now a reward for endless battles and Summon Arena, whereas Emma, where she used to have an evolution event in week 2 of a beginning game or beginning account, now they're pushing better SSS characters on you, and as such, it's going to take you a long time to build up an Emma to the point of usability. So actually, where Moriami used to be one of the rarest characters in the game, now she's actually more accessible than somebody like Emma. Moriami is AoE, Emma single target. Basically, these two are the old Ryzeris and Rebecca. Prygor is also a really good AoE hunter. She pairs nice with Moriami. You can get away with a really good hunter team if you max out Prygor, Moriami, and Ryzeris. You can run them as a PvP team. Prygor is very easily accessible, being a early Twilight Lands reward along with Nautilus. You have to choose between Prygor and Nautilus. And Prygor can dish out a lot of damage, which is why she's just kind of like mid-tier in this class. Azina. Azina and Emma used to be awesome. They used to make the hunters go because Azina buffs the attack speed. And basically, she's kind of like a Rickert for hunters because she gives her butterfly cannon to the hunter that is in the same row as her, and it attacks similar to Sword Souls from Rickert for hunters. But yeah, you're not going to use Xena anymore. And it's going to be hard to get her because she's probably not going to have a banner. You're going to have to spend 120 chips on her. She's just not good. As such, she's on the high end of the bottom half of this list. And then we get into the elites. Taylor, Botmark are excellent beginning game and mid game hunters. Taylor still has uses at end game. Botmark still has uses at end game. If you don't have the other ones, they are great. I would highly recommend that a beginning game to mid game player invest in both of them. Take them up to Immortal. Do not take them up to exclusive 30 though. X20 is just fine. Old John, if you max Old John, like max him, X30, he can have some uses. But I still think that he does not have a place in this game. His range is short. He's got a lot of cool mechanics in his kit. For those of you that played when he was the Rise of Heroes reward hero, you'll all have him immortal. Otherwise, you're going to have to slow farm him. And then by the time you get him up, you're going to be working on some of the triple S. And as such, he's not going to really have a place. Vanguard. Okay, Vanguard. Last month was the first month that I put Barag over Leo. Why? Because Barag can solo teams. Leo can solo teams. The reason why Barag is ahead of Leo is because they have made specific content in this game that you have to have Barag for. Namely, the Endless Battle Vanguard event and the dungeon, the Thundercliffs in the Katosian Triangle. If you do not have Barag, you're not getting a high score, or you're not clearing the higher tiers, which is why Barag gets the #1 spot over Leo. Leo, still a great hero. He's just they kind of forgot about him, and they made content for Barag, whereas Leo just where I'll use tanks sometimes with Leo and Barag, and my tanks will outdamage Leo, which is a sad state of affairs. And then we get into the rest. Crete used to be a really good tank before Leo. Crete, for now, still has a place on a Vanguard PvP team. If you don't have Barag, you're probably going to be running Leo, Crete, and Nafeng. Nafeng is going to be the first one you drop. Nafeng is an elite. He does have some damage amplification for Vanguard heroes, but he was also kind of like Old John, where he was a Rise of Heroes reward hero, where you could get him up to Immortal if you were playing back then. And he's okay. I've seen him used at endgame well. He's not a bad hero. He's just overshone by the other Vanguards. And then, unfortunately, Artis and Guan Yu, we all know what they did to Artis. And Guan Yu still sucks. His damage still sucks. But you can use both of them. I can use either one of them in Thundercliff's Stage 5, which, since they still have a use, which is why I'm not giving them the trash designation. Assassins, I'm not going to discuss Caraxia. Caraxia is broken. She's just, like we said, she's Oppenheimer. She's the Destroyer of Worlds. Rickert and Dominic, again, I have a personal preference, maybe a bias. I like Rickert over Dominic. Both are basically 2A and 2B. They both need each other. But I am giving Rickert the edge given the sword-soul interactions. But Dominic has more uses outside of a assassin team, which is why some people would probably give Dominic the edge. I'm just a PvP player, and as such, I get to pick. It's my list, so I'm giving Rickert the edge. Although they are 2A and 2B, both outstanding assassin heroes. Once you get them up to Immortal X30. Helentis, I'm putting her here just guessing. And I'm putting her over Bailey because I'm just going to assume she does more damage than Bailey. Plus, you have to have her in order to get currency or points in Hell Arena. She gives 15% more payout points just for using her on your team. I think it's three times in a week. We're going to find out a lot more about her in about 2 weeks, but I'm just guessing that she's going to be not as good. Well, she's not as good as the 3 that are before her, because once you take her out of a Hell Arena setting, she loses a lot of her kit. But in the Hell Arena setting, she's probably going to do good damage, and I bet you she does good damage, more so than Bailey, even outside of Hell Arena. Bailey used to be the best hero in the game when the game launched, used to be the paywall hero in the game. Now he's just basically a crit pool for Rickert. And right, and he also feeds Dominic's mark, right? He's just basically a supplemental hero to Rickert and Dominic. And then Rakana and Randall, both of them are decent for a beginning game account. You're going to get a lot of use out of them early on, but then once you get the others, you're just going to replace them. Very low copies of Rickert and Dominic will push out Rakana and Randall, but Rakana is the better hero due to his higher attack speed. But I like Randall due to I used both quite a bit in beginning game, even into mid game before we had the release of Rickert and Dominic. So that's the assassin class. Summoners. Okay, here's where we got our other brand new hero added to the list. Daniel is still the undisputed number 1 in my opinion because he's the one that buffs the other summons. But Doralee is a very, very close second because she also buffs the other summons. She's just not going to do as much damage as Daniel, right? Daniel is also much more plug and play. You can plug and play Doralee. I use her outside of a summoner team on one of my Summon Arena / Hell Arena teams. But Daniel's got so much use. He's never wavered. His damage numbers are still really, really good for the summoners. In more instances, even with the buffs or the changes to Guild Hunt Turbine, making Ampu and Sorvali better, it's still almost better to not bring them. As such, Daniel still gets the number 1 spot. You must have him if you want to start building a summoner team. And they also made him very accessible to new players that are starting out in the game because he's basically replaced Emma as the week 2 elite chapter hero and evolution event hero. Daniel, number 1. Doralee, number 2. Doralee, I can't sing enough praises of her. She basically allowed me to auto Crimson Abyss 15. If you get her up to X30, Doragon, her summoned tank, is a monster tank. Just in PvP, she is a must-have hero for the summoner team if you want to run summoners. And she can be a disruptor hero if you plug and play her onto other teams, given that when she summons Doragon, Doragon's just going to run up and stun everybody. And then Ampu and Sorvali, still great heroes. Sorvali is trash without Ampu, though. That's why Sorvali is tied to Ampu. Ampu is okay without Sorvali, but Sorvali's summons is what feeds Ampu's damage. Ampu, great damage dealer, great, lot of CC in his kit. Used everywhere, a lot of uses. Ampu still great to this day, which is why he's number 3 on the list. Sorvali only number 4 because of Ampu. If you don't have Ampu, Sorvali is worse than pretty much all of them. And then we get into Kalaza and Skur and Hattie. Unfortunately, I'm giving Kalaza the edge over Skur and Hattie because he can do more damage in Guild Hunt Turbine, which is also the only place you're going to use him at mid to late game. And that is also going to be the only place you'll use Skur and Hattie. And Skur is basically just an attack buffing summoner for the summoner team in the Guild Hunt Turbine. She can do more damage. You might want to take her to X30 for Turbine. I don't recommend it. But those two, they do get a spot in the middle of this tier, basically because of their uses for Turbine. They're basically mandatory for Turbine, which is why they're still very, very relevant today. Senway was replaced with Doralee. Senway used to have a spot on Guild Hunt Turbine. You had to run him even at endgame. Now he's been displaced. The Turbine team is Daniel, Doralee, then Kalaza, Skur and Hattie, and Masrani, or Daniel, Doralee, Masrani, Ampu, and Sorvali. Those are your 2 options for Guild Hunt Turbine. Senway does not have a place, although he is still very, very good at beginning game. For new players, he is an AoE summoner. He has 1 summon that can be resummoned if that summon dies. Does decent damage beginning game. Muka was useful. I did have him, I think, over Senway, maybe, but he's still useful. If you don't have Doralee, you're going to use Muka in Mirage Space, and you're going to use Muka possibly in Crimson Abyss as your frontline tank. But with the addition of Doralee, Muka's lost a lot of viability. The fact that they can still be useful beginning game is the only reason why him, like Senway, is this high on the list. All right, 24 minutes. I think I condensed this down. I think last month I rambled on for about 45. So, ladies and gentlemen, but what I did forget is I totally forgot to move my head to show you Randall and Rakana. I'm going to get flamed in the comment section for this. And as well, Muka and Senway. I think you could kind of see Muka and Senway before. Usually a lot better at this. You could kind of understand what I was talking about, but yeah. Randall and Rakana got completely shut out by my massive fucking melon. Whoops. Yeah. Rakana, Randall, they're down there. I give them as much importance as Artis and Guan Yu. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the tier list. That is the best heroes in the game in Eternal Evolution for July 2023. I welcome all your comments. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? Tell me down in the comments. Word of the day is tier list. Very, very simple. If you put tier list in the comments, I will know that you made it to the end of this video. And I will also thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the tier list for July 2023. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. Peace. Bye-bye.